Hands off, stand. Equal justice for all.
I'm here because we have a First Amendment issue with Stan Feury's speaking out at the Human Rights and Relations Commission. I had a First Amendment issue a few years ago, and it went to court. And we prevailed and got a huge settlement. And more than that, we were able to get subpoenas and depositions where we got the evidence that what we were claiming was true, much to the detriment of San Francisco. So I'm hoping that Richmond will let this issue slide and not get too punitive, because if it goes to litigation, then all the documents will start coming out, and it'll just be much worse. So I'll be speaking at the Personnel Board tonight, and basically those will be my remarks.
Tonight, this seems like a stand issue or an issue for a union, but actually this is a community issue.
That's right.
Stan stood up for me and the rights of the public to have public trust in the city of Richmond, and for that he is being punished. The Whistleblower Act, the law says that we should be protected for doing the right thing for the public. But Bill Lindsay, Lisa Stevenson, and the city attorney have now let everyone know that it is wrong to be for the community. Be for oneself is what we're being taught, and that is inappropriate in public government. We want the city of Richmond to be restored with public trust, and we're looking for an ethics commission, and we're looking for the power to be held accountable. So tonight will be the first time in front of a personnel board where they'll actually see evidence of public corruption, so they cannot deny what's going on. So we hope that all of you understand this is just one leg in a long race that we're trying to restore public trust to the city of Richmond.
All right.
One of the things we have to do is we have to look back in history on how the labor movement started. Remember, bosses just ran the workplaces willy-nilly as you wanted. You worked for cheap wages. You had to work as long hours as the boss said, and you couldn't open your mouth because if you did, you were fired, replaced by somebody else. And now history is starting to repeat itself in the form of bullying, workplace violence against co-workers, retaliation against you're speaking out against something that you know is wrong. And here it is again, history starting to repeat itself. And we can all say this for truism. If bosses did what they were supposed to do, unions would be unnecessary. If bosses took care of their employees like they're supposed to do, we wouldn't have to negotiate things like wages, health benefits, those sort of things. The good bosses do that, and those folks are taken care of, and they have loyalty back to the company. But if you have loyalty to this company and to the taxpayers of the city of Richmond, they allow what happened with Miss Knight to go unpunished, basically. A person, anyone standing up here who would have gotten away with that wouldn't have gotten away with it, because you'd be in jail. You can't steal from your employer. You can't use people inappropriately without getting some kind of backlash. Any one of us would have done it, we'd still be in jail right now. And to allow her just to walk away was a clear signal to everybody out here that being a whistleblower just doesn't get you justice. And that's what we're seeking, is the justice here. The city pays us as employees to do jobs, but that doesn't mean they can take away our civil rights as workers, as human beings, as citizens of America. We have the right to speak out. We have the right to say that something is wrong, or we can identify a problem and we can speak on it. And that's what Stan did. He spoke out at something that he felt strongly about. He wasn't trying to downgrade anybody. He wasn't trying to give a person a bad name, which then he could have been in trouble for. He just tried to speak about what's happening in today's life, and now he's being punished for it. And you've got to remember, all the people that help Stacie, when she first came out, this wasn't just a Stacie issue. This became more than a Stacie issue because of what's happening. But most everybody that helped Stacie has been targeted, it seems like to me. Somebody has unleashed the dogs in the city of Richmond on those folks that helped bring this thing forward. Me personally, it came at a time when I was about to had to be forced to retire here because of an injury, and they're changing of the rules on how I was to return to work. Nobody in the city of Richmond had to go through what I had to go through in terms of changing what their general functions of their job were. And this was after I had to win a grievance to return to work. So it seems like everybody's been attacked, and they do it in such a fashion that you think it's a separate issue. Think it's a separate place over here, but it's not. It's a combined effort. They're going after people because they don't want the dirty laundry in the city of Richmond put out on the airwaves. They don't want the highlights and headlines that came with the Leslie Knight debacle. And we have to stop that. We have to be vigilant as members of the workforce, and as retirees, and as cities, the city employees, not only them, but the citizens of the city of Richmond. You guys got to start speaking out and making Mr. Lindsay accountable for his actions, because he's ultimately in charge. And you can't sit up there and say, I didn't know. Because if you didn't know, you should have known. And if you did know, shame on you because you let it go on. Thank you.
When Bill Lindsay came in as the city manager, and we've got some new people on the city council, I was of the opinion that everything was fine, everything was hunky-dory, and it was a new era. And so I was asleep at the wheel. I keep an eye on government, what they're up to and stuff like that, and I couldn't see anything on the horizon that would rock my boat until Stacie came along and blew the whistle on Leslie Knight, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that that was going on. I couldn't believe that that was going on underneath Bill Lindsay's nose. And I couldn't believe that it had been going on almost since the day she was brought over here by Bill Lindsay to work here for the city of Richmond. I was shocked. But I had more shocks coming in my direction because I thought, well, this has been exposed, there'll be justice. The way it worked out, there was no justice. In fact, there was injustice. First off, the DA refused to prosecute Ms. Knight, and the reason the excuse he used was there wasn't enough evidence, and the reason there wasn't enough evidence is because Bill Lindsay went out of his way to muddy the water so that there was no statement, in fact, that you could always hang your hat on the fact that he would say things like, well, you know, on that particular occasion, I think I gave her 2 days off, or she was doing this for me. And that's all the DA needed, because then the DA could say, well, you see, if I brought this case before a jury and Bill Lindsay got up there and testified, I would be wasting taxpayers' money because there's too many loose ends here. When in fact there were no loose ends. And Stacie proved it with her statements, her photographs, her documents. That woman should be sitting in jail right now, not down there on the shoreline. After she left, then the attack went on the workers. The workers that stood up with Stacie and Stan. And I could tell you this, that I was a chief steward at East Bay Mud for 12 years. I know what a chief steward does. The chief steward is the number 2 person in the power chain in the workplace with a union. The president is the face of the union. The chief steward enforces the contract. And when a company or a city goes after the chief steward, they're looking to destroy the union. They're looking at the person, to get rid of the person who has read the contract and knocks on their door and tells them, you can't do this. And that's why they're after Stan. That's why we're going in there tonight. This city is in deep trouble. And I'm going to give a message to the RPA, and I'm going to give a message to the city council right now. This is the year of elections. I believe there's 5 city council seats that are coming up in November. And I say to those people who are going to run for their seat again, or those people who are going to come and run against them, that if they don't have on their platform that if they win an election, they will fire Bill Lindsay, they're not worth voting for. They are worthless. They are corrupt. They are opportunists. Bill Lindsay should be fired. Why? Because he refused to fire a crook, and she stole our residents' money. And she screwed over the people that worked for her. She enslaved workers by saying, oh, you don't want to wrap presents for me? Well, the only thing she didn't say was, you better start looking for another job. And that's what was going on in this building here. And Lindsay knew it. And these people on the city council know it now. And the people that say they're going to run in November know it. And it's not going to go away.
I'd just like to thank all you guys for coming out and supporting me, but really supporting the public. You know, we're all taxpayers, and we have a legal right and a privilege to know how our funds are expended. Now, in this community, under the leadership we have here, there is clear and convincing evidence that those funds were being stolen. Stacie Plummer was the main one to spearhead the efforts into exposing that. I, as her steward, it's my job to back her and protect the contract and really protect the public's right to know, and as a public employee, to protect the public's resources. We're all here to do that. The United States Constitution gives us the right and privilege to make public corruption and wrongdoing so the public can know, so they can make informed decisions on who they elect to represent them. So I was suspended for 2 weeks. Been here 17 years, never reprimanded or anything. We have other people, the police chief, he caused a lawsuit, and he said the discipline he got from the city manager was a relatively weak admonition saying, I wish you had chosen a better choice of words. Leslie Knight, she stole through her frivolous use of attorneys what amounts to millions of dollars, and she got a written warning saying from Bill Lindsay that if you do it again, I might fire you. So this is how they do here, but it's really not against me, but it's against the public from knowing, because if they know, they're able to get involved, and now these criminals can't do what they do. So it's up to each and every one of us. It's our duty to stand up for what is right. Thanks for supporting us.
IFPTE Local, welcome.
Thank you. Great job there, Stan. My name is Sam Casas. I'm immediate past president of Local 21, so that means I'm still on the executive committee. So you know that, in case people forget. I was in my presidency when this issue came up that Stacie whistleblowed on. I was on the right side of history.
Right on.
Because if you're crooked and you're doing wrong, look it. They tell us, and Local 21, we're mid-management. They're always telling us, you're not there to discipline your employees. You're there just to correct behavior. If we can correct behavior, then we're doing our job. The first line of defense should not be discipline. When that information, though it had been known for years, was brought to light back in August of 2012, Mr. Lindsay should have changed and corrected behavior and provided some discipline. But now, can you do that if either one, you know about it? Because if you know about what was happening, then you're just as guilty. Now, if you didn't know about it, then you're incompetent. That you don't know what's happening in your own city that you manage here. That's problematic. So instead, they made Stacie's life more difficult, trying to bring up all these charges against her. All of a sudden, 2013, they start making Stan's life more difficult. They've even made my life more difficult because I've stood on the side of the right side of history. And that, I tell you, is how retaliation happens. It's insidious. It starts with little steps, and they go more and more and more. The funny thing about this city is hey, you don't have to raise your hand, but if you nod your head, are you a resident of Richmond? Yeah. This is the people's money. We get taxes. I am a civil, what would you call it? Servant and the steward of your funds. I have to make sure that we're using your funds that you gave to us through taxes appropriately, not inappropriately. So when you have people stand up to talk about this, there's improprieties happening with the city, instead of let's correct it, no, let's hide it. Let it continue. Well, as long as you don't get caught, maybe it's not stealing. Remember that old, what is it? What's his name? I forget the name of that play. Oliver? The kid, the orphan that was a kid, I forget. He was an orphan.
Twist.
Oliver Twist. Twisted, huh? Well, here we have Oliver Twisted. But Oliver Twist, the guy said, it's not stealing unless you get caught. I'm sorry, even if you don't get caught, it's still stealing.
Yeah.
And we stood up and said, people's money should not get stolen. But it continued. And those in positions of power allowed it to continue. It must stop. And it also, even folks on the policy-making board even knew about it. It's really important that you know who on your council knew about this and what the action they took. Because as you know, we can't do anything because that's, city manager deals with those. We can't. Well, then maybe we need to look at the charter. Maybe we need to create some policies and tell me, no, we can't do anything. We can't handle this. Think about creatively to protect the people's mind that this doesn't happen again. Because guess what? Bet you anything, if we don't keep a watchful eye, we don't get an ethics commission, we don't have somebody watching the hen house, the wolves are going to come again. They're going to come back. So it's you, the residents, really, that need us. We're still standing up for you, but it's really for that executive manager, our policy makers over here. They hear from you. I can only speak so much about what's happening in the city. So what happens is you have this history. Stan's alluded to, has mentioned what has happened when he spoke up. Stacie spoke up against Leslie Knight. They started finding any little thing they could get to get them fired. So what do? They do this thing called progressive discipline. I'm going to give you a day. I'm going to give you maybe a day. I mean, God, it would have been nice if it, not nice, it would have been understandable if they were kind and showed generosity like they did Leslie Knight by a little slap on the hand. But what did Stan get? 2 weeks suspension. No pay. Stacie, can I mention it? 1 week suspension. No pay. Leslie Knight suspension. Oh wait, she didn't get a suspension.
Pat on the hand.
Pat on the hand. Is that how you want your money here as residents of Richmond handled? No. When the whistleblowers, the ones who are here looking out for your best interests, are the ones being persecuted. It is unacceptable behavior.
Sam, can you run a business in Richmond without a business license?
No, you cannot run a business license.
Can you not pay taxes on your business as someone else did at the city of Richmond?
No, I don't think you can there.
So how without a criminal prosecution against this person?
Well, that's when you gotta go to Martinez, because we all went to Martinez.
We did.
And what did they tell us? We don't know, it's there somewhere. Why? Because there's another collusion going on between the city of Richmond and Contra Costa County that you're in. That's why they didn't take action. You need to go ask them why they didn't take action for you, the residents here of Richmond. You really do. So again, this is, I'm not going to talk to you about the case, about the discipline that Stan went through, but what he did was not malice, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't a conspiracy, it wasn't to create harm. The other criminals we got here, it is intentional. They are creating harm. They're looking out for their best interests. They're looking out for their retirement. Well, guess what? You're getting retired. You're retiring on the taxpayer dollars of Richmond, and you better do a darn good job of protecting that bank, that money. Because if you're not, then it's time to go. Whether we do this at the ballot box in November, or pressure by going to those council meetings. People say, oh, the Richmond meetings are like a circus. No, they're not. That's community action. Whether you agree or disagree, there's discourse happening here in the city of Richmond. You go to other cities, oh yeah, they're done by 6:30. But was there engagement? Was there discourse? You should be proud of what happens in those halls, but more proud when all of a sudden you have elected officials going forward with policies that benefit the residents, or them getting policies from executive management that benefits the residents of Richmond. Not this what's going on.
Yes, my name is Rachlis. I work over here in Richmond at the California Department of Public Health, represented previously by the California Association of Professional Scientists. I'm not going to talk about any specific cases of bullying, but what I want to say is that by standing up here in Richmond in the city, what you've done is you've given a lot of courage to other workers in other places, and we want to take our hats off to you for that. Thank you very much. We have people who have been intimidated because maybe they were foreign born, or maybe they didn't speak English 100%, or maybe they were a younger woman with an older male supervisor, or maybe any number of reasons, who've taken action to stand up for themselves and find out what their rights are and start to exert their rights. Unfortunately, our unions are in a terrible state of disarray, and it appears, where I work, that the union leaderships are in bed with management and are not doing what they should be doing. So when these workers call their union and say, represent me, stand up for me, stand up and call down these supervisors, enforce these grievances, they find out that the management and the union leadership are hand in hand. And it comes back on them for having done the right thing and stood up for themselves. So what we've done is we've come together and formed the Inter-Union Organizing Committee, where workers can get together and say, if the union leadership is not going to do the job, we're going to do the job ourselves. We're going to form our committee, and we're going to meet together, and we're going to publish, and we're going to stand up and back people up who are being bullied and intimidated, and we're going to reach out beyond our work site to other workers who are also doing this and stand as a united front against the intimidation and the bullying that come hand in hand with the crisis of the economy, the capitalist crisis that's putting a finger of austerity on the whole economy and holding us all down. We don't think it's just a question of mean individual bullies who just happen to be in the wrong job and were able to take advantage of it. We think there's a crisis of the economy that puts all kinds of pressure on people, so they do illegal things like they did here and run their businesses out of the back pocket of the Richmond City Hall. They do that for economic reason because there's a crisis and they're looking out for their own. But not only is management in crisis, but the workers are in crisis. And our unions aren't organizing the way they should to prepare a statewide actions to win our COLAs and to bring us up to snuff and to have an economics that we have a pay parity across the board so that workers can actually make a living here. So what do we have when we have a breakdown of the unions? We just saw an article about Caltrans. In Caltrans, you have all kinds of problems going on over there with the building of the bridge, and you've got 13,000 engineers who are supposed to overlook that kind of stuff. But when they're under pressure not to stand up and protect themselves, they start to look the other way. Now you've got all kinds of oversight looking into the dysfunction of major state operations. If we had a strong union membership and a union leadership fighting for the rights of the workers, they wouldn't stand for that kind of abuse, and you wouldn't see the systems falling apart that way. Thank you.
I'm Ray Drayer. I used to be a former employee of the city of Richmond, equipment operator down here.
And also you with SEIU?
Yes, I'm the vice president, exiting as of my retirement, but I'm still an active member of our union. I still just got done helping negotiate our contract with the city. That was one of the last bits of pieces of work we did here.
So there's been a struggle over malfeasance, financial malfeasance with the former Human Resources Director, Leslie Knight. What happened as a result of people speaking out, and you're speaking out to defend Stacie Plummer?
Well, it looks like, and it's bearing fruit right now, that all the folks that have been involved in trying to support Stacie's allegations against the city and Leslie Knight have been retaliated against in some form or another, either by having false accusations against them or taking their freedom of speech away, or even in my case where I was sort of forced to retire from this city based on them changing the rules for my workplace. I went from meeting the minimum requirements off of a work injury, having to come back, fight for my job, win a grievance against the city, and then find out the very next day that the parties that were trying to get me out of here sent a letter to my doctor saying that I had to do maximum effort, maximum efficiency, and these letters that they sent to my doctor basically was my death sentence here. And if I didn't comply with what my doctor wanted or didn't comply with what the city wanted, then I would have been probably brought up on fit for duty issues. And then all the stuff that I had tried to get in way of getting back to work would have just been wasted because the city would have done a fit for duty, and I probably would not have been able to pass the extra effort that they wanted me to do because it just wasn't necessary. And
now Leslie Knight has been replaced by who?
Well, temporarily, it looks like Lisa Stevenson.
And who is Lisa Stevenson?
She was the assistant to the HR director, which was Leslie's title, and I think she's the interim, I think, at this particular point. And we just got done negotiating with Lisa, which would have been Leslie's spot. So I think Lisa Stevenson is now the interim HR director until they either find a replacement or they promote her permanently.
So what does this say about public service workers who try to speak up, who try to do the right thing and defend not only themselves but defend the public and their professionalism?
Well, to me, the idea of the whistleblower came about because of the problems with management. You cannot get the secrets that are being told in the back room out unless somebody in that back room comes and brings it forward and says, hey, this is a bad idea. This was wrong. We should be doing something about this. And right now, when we tried to go after Ms. Knight about what she was doing here in the city of Richmond, everyone it seems that was on that agenda is being attacked after the news has died down. And I think it's a great idea that we're down here today to not let this thing die, to support Stan and his effort at the personnel board, and to bring light back to this situation where people understand their money is being wasted. And as the city manager said at one point that he should take responsibility for this, but he didn't really. He released the dogs on the city and said, stay outside the yard, don't stay in the yard, stay outside the yard, but when you come in the yard, I don't know anything, okay, don't tell me anything. And that's what happened here. He turned a blind eye to stuff that was going on that he should have been aware of, and if it would have been me or you, we'd still be in jail right now. There would have been a prosecution, and we'd still be sitting in jail talking about, hey, where's my next meal coming from? Yeah, the prison yard. That's where it's coming from.
And there was a private business right next to his office going on, and he said he didn't know about it?
Exactly. I mean, how could you not? I mean, you have to have dealings with this woman every day, and you walk in and you don't see these little fluffy gifts and stuff, and you can't know that something is improper going on in your own backyard? Come on, that's ridiculous. So... anything else you want to ask?
Okay, that's it. Well, what do you think the labor movement should do about it? Because, I mean, it seems like there's a whole-scale attack on public employees, blaming public workers, saying they're overpaid, their pensions are too much. And, I mean, here some public workers are standing up to fight to defend the public, and yet what are the unions doing?
Well, there's two things that they have to do. First, they have to confront the bureaucrats in their own backyard. They have to have their members being willing to come forward. But if the things that are happening in the city of Richmond keep happening, the people won't come forward because they know that eventually they're going to be retaliated against. So that's what we have to stop that. We have to be more public. We have to be more vigilant in our attacks on these folks that do this stuff. The second thing we have to do as a union is people have to come out in mass support and get behind the effort that we are the basic services that people need. We're not Home Depot. We are Park and Rec. We are streets. We are lighting. We are police and fire. These are the services that people want, that they vote their money for, and we're the stewards of that money, and we're the stewards of getting things done. So we have to be more vigilant in getting our folks out here to represent that, and we have to do a better job of making sure that we do what we say we're going to do in terms of the pledge of making the city a better place to live, a better place to work. And by doing that, coming out and supporting these types of events makes it more transparent, therefore we get more things done.
Hands off Stan. Equal justice for all. Hands off Stan. Equal justice for all.